welcome to Universal Asian's first ever video interview. I'm your host, Steph, and I'm one of Universal Asian's editor, and I'm also the founder of Asians of Britain and the co-producer of the Take Your Place ESEA photoshoot. Today, I have with me Chris, my co-producer, and also our very talented photographer, Vanessa.
Woo!
So Chris, do you want to start us off by introducing yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris, and I am the co-producer on the Take Your Place photo shoot series. And yeah, Steph and I have known each other for a few years now, and I sort of approached Steph with the idea for this photo shoot back in March of this year, 2021, and we sort of went from there. Usually, it's producing is not my job. Usually, I'm a musical director in the musical theatre industry and the theatre industry, so it was a massive step out of my comfort zone.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm the photographer for the shoot. I'm a photographer anyway. So the purpose for me being on the shoot was something that I wanted to do for a while anyway. I think Steph and Chris posted on our group chat asking for a photographer, and I said yes straight away because I knew that it was something that I wanted to do anyway, and I just thought if someone was going to produce it, I was 100% going to be on board with it. And yeah, really happy that we did it together and we were able to form a lasting friendship together as well.
Yeah, and I guess like we can start off by talking about, I guess, how we started and like why we started the photo shoot. I guess like I can pass on to you, Chris, because you're the one who like reached out to me and kind of shared this like amazing idea. Yeah.
Yeah, so long story short, I sort of had an idea to do a photo shoot back in February, March of 2020, so actually a month before the first lockdown in the UK. Um, the idea of that photo shoot was actually as a response um, to sort of depictions of East Asian males within mainstream media. But also, what I noticed at the time while I was trying to plan and formulate that photo shoot was obviously with coronavirus and a lot of the misinformation that was going on, and obviously how the virus had started from Wuhan, um, perceptions and treatment of Asians in general were increasingly Asians were increasingly being mistreated, and the treatment of these people were becoming even more hostile, and we were seeing stories and cases of violence towards them. And obviously then when lockdown happened, I sort of threw that idea out the window and sort of parked it in my brain for a bit. And it wasn't until March of 2021 where when the news of the Atlanta, Georgia shootings happened, and the murder of was it 12 women in those massage parlors. That was when it really sort of, when I revisited the idea and sort of triggered something in me to try and, I don't know, respond to it. I mean, I think there have been stories of escalating violence, whether it's verbal violence or physical violence against East Asians, or even Southeast Asians, because of the coronavirus and all the perceptions and misperceptions that come with it. So it sort of fell into place, and the idea sort of made sense to me, where if we expanded the photo shoot to not just a male thing and not just a media thing, but it was just as a response of it was a burst of identity, and it turned into the burst of celebration of our identities in the face of all this dehumanizing and misperceptions formed around us. And that's when I approached Steph. Steph actually, for Asians Britain, had interviewed me years ago, when I think when your platform was first starting. So we sort of knew each other from way back, and yeah. So when I messaged Steph, and Steph was all too happy to support that idea and sort of make it her own and our own. And yeah, and we recruited Vanessa, as she said, and the rest is, yeah. I'll leave it to one of you to describe the rest of the process.
Yeah, I guess I can go through a bit. So we kind of, well, yeah, I think we all three of us had an initial chat as to what we wanted the shoot to be about and how we want things to be portrayed. Um, I think Steph sent me just a brief like presentation on like what they think that like you guys thought that you wanted the shoot to be. And I had a few ideas as to what we wanted to come across as and like just general things that might come into play and what we might have to prioritize and things like that in terms of the shoot. Because we initially wanted 10 people for the whole shoot, but then we felt like there was so many applications that were coming in through that we felt we might not be able to represent that many people or 10 people, so we tried to do it with 20. And that was quite difficult as well, just because so many people applied. We spent ages going through all the applications. And yeah, I think we reached out on Instagram and so many people responded, and we basically chose the people that we felt could represent different individuals who are very opposing to each other. Try to get as many different nationalities and races as possible, and yeah, we just wanted to make it as diverse as we could within 20 people, and obviously it's quite hard to represent so many millions and billions of people with 20 people, but I think we did a good job in for how we started. But yeah, and then after choosing all the people, we did a like Zoom call with everyone just to see their thoughts and just to ask if they thought that we were going in the right direction and to see how they felt about it. And it was kind of a bit of another community like based like chat basically, so that we could all talk about our experiences and why we wanted to be part of the shoot. And yeah, I guess that leads us to where the shoot actually happened. I don't know if you want me to talk about that as well, or if you want to talk about that, Steph.
I guess before we talk about that, kind of want to highlight as well why this photo shoot is a bit different to like just other general photo shoots. It's, as you said, it's all about like community, and I really like how we had that kind of Zoom call, like chat with everybody, like all the models, everyone involved, even the photographers, makeup artists beforehand, and everyone was like talking about why they want to join the photo shoot. And we had like Chris kind of like encouraging everybody, like telling everyone to like look shit hot, which has been everyone has adapted this phrase now, like, and it's great. And it's nice to hear from everyone who kind of, I guess, share similar views towards, Asian representation and wanting to be out there to do something, for the East and Southeast Asian community specifically. It's just so beautiful.
It's interesting you mentioned that, Steph, because both of you raised really good points about why we did this and why it's different to usual photo shoots. Whereas in a normal photo shoot, there would be a purpose, but we purposely didn't pick our models based on like aesthetics, because that would have really not been the spirit of the shoot. But we based the people the purpose of the photo shoot was just to humanize a bunch of people who have been sort of homogenized and sort of assumed identities. So we sort of picked our sort of favorite stories and stories we felt told societies and anyone looking at this photo shoot, like, look at this variety of people and identities and cultures. And what you mentioned about our little Kumbaya Zoom circle, it was really interesting how many levels of comfort that people had in talking and discussing about their own culture and identities and ethnicities, because some people weren't as comfortable with that. For some people, it was the first time they were trying to connect with their heritage and ethnicity. Whereas on the other hand, we had a bunch of people who were already so like sort of proud and sort of outspoken about their identities, and that was really lovely to see. And I think you're right, Steph. It was a very vital sort of thing to do to try and make sure everyone actually had a voice. And I think everyone felt like they did have a voice and could speak up, which was great.
Yeah. And I think there's like a lot of honesty from people. It doesn't matter, as you said, if it's their first ever time trying to be part of, something bigger than themselves, trying to do a bit more for the British Asian community, but it's kind of like just being honest about how they felt and what they've gone through, their experiences. And I think what's great is that all of us are so open to just kind of like giving that love and support to each other. Like a lot of the after interviews I did with the models, like quite a few of them kind of echoed similar like thoughts as to how, when they first stepped into the studio, they just like saw like all the other models and just felt like home, and they don't feel like they're different, or that they have to, be someone they're not just to like fit into the group of people. They were just like being themselves, like talking to other people, networking as well. And it was really nice to see that. And what I love specifically during the photo shoot as well is how you, Chris, you specifically asked them to like choose their own song so they will feel like most comfortable. And how Vanessa, you also like made them feel like they can be themselves, and the photos really embodies like their personality, and we're not telling them, oh, you should pose like this, or you should look like this to look good. It's just like, just be yourself. Like, what do you like? How do you want to pose? Like, so I think, yeah, it's just amazing. It's not just simply a photo shoot. It's just more than that. And I guess like that opened up a lot more discussions about, other issues that relating to, the Asian community.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a bit to what Steph was saying as well. It's that not only were we bringing people together and that shared the same sentiments, but also because everyone is so unique as well. It's a case of like celebrating each individual person and being so open to their uniqueness, and being able to just celebrate each person rather than just for being themselves, basically. So a bit about the shoot, right? I mean, I went into it, usually I'm quite nervous for shoots. I think everyone gets a bit like jittery before a shoot, but I just felt like for this, I don't think I was really that nervous, because whatever I was going to capture would be the person themselves. So it really depended on the relationship between me and whoever I'm shooting. So I felt like I didn't feel that nervous, because all I had to do was kind of get out their personality. And I think shooting that many people, it does get a bit tiring, but when you learn about each of their stories and just talk to each person, it's just like conversational, and it's like meeting up with friends and stuff. Do you know what I mean? And then just taking a picture, like it's like a chat, and then I'm just there to take a picture. All the setting up and things like that, it's super simple, so there's not much that had to be done there. It's just getting to know the person, getting to know who they are and what they're like, their personality, and just being there and taking a photo. So I think it wasn't too difficult for me, because it is about their personalities.
Oh, I should also add, if you look at the photos, you look at the group shots, all of our participants had tested negative for COVID 24 hours before, just disclosure for anyone listening or watching out there. But also, while you were setting up those group shots, if you go back into Asians of Britain after this interview and look at those group shots, it looks like a full-on like Asian drama, like warring families, K-drama, gangsters or whatever. And that was very exciting from myself and Steph from the outside looking in to see that being formed. which was hugely exciting. Um, yeah.
Yeah, like I think another thing that really stood out to me was the dedication of all these models. There were a few people who had work afterwards, like for example, Joe, like right after he shot his photos, he immediately had to leave to, I think he was like giving like singing lessons or something.
Yeah, he was
And then like
teaching.
Jai, like after the end of the day, he stayed for the whole shoot, helped us like film like vlogs and stuff for his YouTube channel, and he immediately went for a night shift at the hospital. So like people are just, the dedication I see in these group of people is just like amazing, and it's just like it's so nice to see how people really believe in your vision, and really share that like passion of yours. It just really motivates you to do more. And obviously we already like talked about, oh, like we should do this again. We should like expand this to like, South Asians as well, or even Central Asians. And yeah, it just gives you so much hope for like the future. And I think that's great, because with all the, as you said, like Chris before, all the anti-Asian hate crimes, and basically essentially what I guess sparked your idea in this photo shoot, is all the lack of Asian representation, all the Asian hate crimes. It's time for us almost like to, as you said, and as the name of our photo shoot, to take our place, because a lot of us are from the UK, or even have lived in the UK for such a long time. Even if you just studied here or here for work, I don't think it matters. We should be like open to people, and shouldn't discriminate just because our skin color.
I just want to add, actually, speaking of how even on the day of the shoot, people were running off to do their jobs. It's amazingly like inspiring, hugely inspiring to see. And even when we were looking through everyone's photos, I should add, when we put the call out for models, obviously, we wanted to see what people look like, so we asked for headshots or profile shots, side shot, but we asked them to tell us a little bit about themselves and their stories, and so many models were already doing stuff aside from their like sort of their day jobs, but they were using their skills to like better their community and help like gather data for research into like representation or misrepresentation or lack thereof of East Asians. As you said, Jai works as a nurse, as a key worker, and also runs a vlog, and does all of this stuff, and also is very muscular and has the time to work out. Like, it's really inspiring, actually, because in the end, all as lovely as this project was, it's just a photo shoot. But whereas a lot of people we met and worked with had already been doing this stuff for so long. Steph, yourself, for years. And that's so heartwarming and so lovely to now know that these people are out there. In terms of this like anti-Asian sort of experience, it's a bit of a weird one, and I sort of recently sort of wrote a bit of an article about my own experiences and relating my cultural identity to this idea of anti-Asian hate. To be perfectly honest, you might have got the sense from the way I talk and like listen to my voice, but I've lived in the UK since I was 9 years old. But I've been a British citizen, and held a passport since I was very young, since before I was born, because I was born in Hong Kong just before the handover back to China. Um, and when I first moved here, I come from Reading, and it was a very diverse town. There were a few East Asian people, but I think, and feel free to weigh in on this, Steph and Vanessa, but I think while this is a generalization, but while the idea of community for South Asians is a massive deal, you see a lot of like rec centers, community centers, like with South Asian people, with like South Asian heritage. Um, I found it harder to come by with East Asians, but I didn't actively seek out friends who were East Asian anyway. And I spent most of my life actually just trying to sort of suppress this and my identity. And it wasn't actually until this project, this photo shoot, that I really try to make an effort to reconnect. But in truth, with my career, it just didn't feel like it selfishly, it didn't suit me to acknowledge my cultural identity, because why should I other myself? Why should I risk othering myself? It's not worth it. And it wasn't until lockdown that I sort of reconsidered just sort of how I wanted to be and how I wanted to carry myself. So working in the theatre industry, it used to be a very, and still is in a lot of places, a very sort of white dominated industry, whether it's backstage, in the creative team, in castings, in the actors, very also middle class. It's a middle class sort of vocation. Things are getting a lot better these days. There's a lot more representation, positive representation for black actors, but backstage is still lacking, and especially on stage for East Asians, Southeast Asians, and South Asians, for that matter. They come in a minority. And I sort of thought to myself, I am one of very few sort of working in the industry, and I've been lucky to be able to do the things I've been able to do. And I haven't actually, in truth, I haven't felt discriminated for 99% of the time in the places I work at. But if I can be that sort of person for other people, like kids growing up, where I can show them like it's this area is viable and accessible, this career, and could foster like a variety, like more of a variety of careers, like a photographer, like a musical director, then that would be fantastic. That would be amazing, because I didn't have a lot of role models in media or even on the stages when I was watching shows growing up. So it'd be cool in a few years' time if I could try and be that for people.
Exactly. How about you, Vanessa? What's your experience like?
Yeah, so actually it's funny that Steph, you were saying how people might relate to Chris. Like I feel like I do a lot as well, because I was born in the UK, in a small town, and I'd lived there until I went to uni. And it wasn't until maybe after university that I kind of noticed different things. So I grew up thinking like I didn't deal with any racism. I didn't, like, not much anyway, and just thinking, you know what, I actually have quite a lucky life, and I definitely do have quite a privileged life. I do recognize that, because I feel like I haven't really had like a massive like racist attack or anything, but reflecting on it, I do notice like little things that have happened to me where I feel like actually like that is something that could have been racist, or maybe like it was not their intention to be racist, but it's something that has been put onto me basically. And then when I grew up, I did a drama degree, and I basically at school I was like, I like drama, so I'm going to do drama. So I ended up doing drama at uni, and I kind of, when I got there, I just felt a bit out of place, because I felt like I didn't love this enough, and I felt like as an Asian girl, like I felt like I wouldn't be cast in anything. Like that's why I just felt like, you know what, I don't want to do this. I don't want to put myself in a position where I would get rejected from that because I'm Asian. Like I just didn't want to even try and pursue it, because I knew that other people were going to get roles instead of me because of like it could have been a racing, or it could have been I'm not as good, but like I just didn't want to be in that position where that could happen anyway. And so that's why I kind of went into photography, because it was something that I liked a lot more and I enjoy a lot. And yeah, it's and that's why I want to do more like things like documentary style things based on like Asian people, just because yeah, it's not really like big things that have happened, it's the small things for me. So just trying to get people to recognize like the little things that they say, and just recognize that that could have been said in a better way. Like I've even had people say to me like, oh, you're like pretty for an Asian girl, and it's like, what does that actually
Exactly,
mean? Like, yeah,
exactly what I was going to say, Vanessa.
yeah, it's like, what does that actually mean? Like, am I pretty, or is it like, am I not pretty? Like, that doesn't really make sense. So it's just like the small things that I want to try and change.
It's
But there was
interesting.
one more thing that I wanted to add as well. When I was younger, I remember talking to my cousins who are also born in the UK, and my parents, and I was thinking about how they were saying, if you like, which side do you relate more to? Do you relate more to being Chinese, or do you think of yourself as British? And my cousins also said that they were Chinese, and I felt like I felt more British. Um, but it's a case of, but now thinking back to it, I'm like, why do I have to choose between the two? Do you know what I mean? Like, I am both, so I feel like both. So it was just kind of a weird question to ask, and to kind of, which part do you identify more with? But it's a case of, I identify with both because I am both. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I just thinking about it now, as to like, I'm not even mixed race. I'm just born in the UK.
Yeah.
And I've already had such conflicting like feelings of who I am, and so I can't even imagine what it's like being mixed race, or like having even more to me that's like to think about. So yeah, it's just really, yeah, interesting to kind of think about who you are as a person, and like, because people move around all the time as well, you pick up different things and different habits. So it's like, and I'm just one like Chinese girl that was born in the UK, like that's kind of what I've done and what I'm based as. So to have more to me is like to more to someone is, yeah, just interesting. Like, for example, like Princess Polyglot, like she's like so multicultural, and it's like, I can't even imagine being someone like that. It's just so
I
much,
was
so
trying to
many
place her
things.
accent. I was like, you can't place her accent because
Huh?
it's so. I was trying to place her accent when we met her
Yeah.
on the shoot, but she couldn't because it was so like trans. It was so transatlantic, like transcultural, multicultural rather. It was just so like yeah. It was like a bit here, a bit here, a bit from there. So yeah, it's amazing that way, isn't it? Um, yeah, I think people get so caught up in trying to classify and group things together and lump everything together in one. Yeah, as you said, you're just one person, and I'm just one person, and Steph, you're just one person, but sort of everyone's got their varying degrees of um, sort of comfort and awareness.
Yeah, I think what both of you mentioned is so much like, it's very much relatable, even though, I wasn't born in the UK and only came here when I was like 12, 13 years old for high school. Um, it's so interesting how all of us, we're very different, but also have similar experiences. And I think it's just amazing how we're able to connect through kind of similarities, yet we are such different people. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's amazing. And I remember, Vanessa, you mentioned how you're studying drama and you feel like there's like such a lack of representation in the media, and you don't think as a Chinese woman you can make it in that industry. It's kind of, I guess, like why I started Agents in Britain in the first place, because I feel like there's a lack of stories of, Southeast and Southeast Asians in the media and anywhere, to be honest. And I think what's great about us in general is that even though, we talk about, oh, there's such a lack of Asian representation, there's like issues here and there, we're not just kind of like sitting idle and just saying, well, just gonna deal with it. We're kind of like, no, we have to do something ourselves. Like if, let's say, for example, a great example is Alex, one of our models. If there's no production house out there that kind of supports and kind of like gives opportunity to like, you know, minorities. He went out and like, you know, with other people decide to create their own, you know, just start your own company, because if other people won't do it, then, you know, you should do it yourself. And I really like that kind of spirit, and that, I guess, really, yeah, I think that really reflects who we are as people, because we're, even if in the past we're a bit more, I guess, like quiet, because that's how we were brought up, you know, to just like deal with it and just like, you know, get through it and just like work hard and don't cause any trouble. We are no longer like that. We kind of say, you know, like, we shouldn't be doing that. We should like stand up for ourselves, do something about it, even if it's like little things like, you know, joining a photo shoot and just take a few pictures. It's not just a few pictures, it's more than that, you know. So yeah, it's just amazing to hear all these stories, and all similarities and differences, and yeah, it's just amazing. It
It's fun.
just
It's funny you mention that stuff because you know we in the build up to the shoot, like me and you, we talk about after our like post work 2 hour Zoom meetings,
yeah
we talk about what success would look like from the shoot. And I remember you just saying the photos are more than just photos because we would say we would talk about like what success would look like, and we always would conclude with if someone, whatever race they are, but if someone looked at those photos and thought, "Cool, they look shit hot," then that's already a win because that is in itself is encouraging a positive sort of narrative and a positive representation. They don't need to think about these like deep thinkings and philosophical observations about third culture. That's up to them. But it's about encouraging these conversations, isn't it, Steph? It's about just
yeah
going, these people, they're here to stay. It's all right. They're not here to harm you.
yeah
Yeah,
They're not viruses. They're not nothing. They're just like you.
but that's the
yeah
thing as well. I think like the point is that we don't see enough Asian people, Asian representation. So if like that is has even entered someone's facility and someone has seen it, then that makes it so that more like it's the representation part, you know, like it doesn't matter that they don't interact with it or anything. It's just being a it's just seeing that there are more Asian like representations, and just and they don't have to interact with it. It's not, you're right, Chris, like it's not a case of like I need to think like so deeply about who I am as a person, but it's like, oh, I see Asian people and they look good, and that's it, like, and that means like I see that more Asian people are on the screens like doing something, and that's the whole point of media representation, is just being able to see someone that looks like you somewhere else that's not just you.
Yeah. But even that, even as you said, Vanessa, even those little tiny, tiny parameters examples, they build up. Like again, one of our models recently, Chip, who is now on the Love Island. I know nothing about Love Island, but he's on the app version
Yeah,
of Love
yeah,
Island. But again, he's one of a selection of like hot,
mm,
chiseled, you know,
yeah,
like models, good-looking people, and for people who downloaded it, again, I don't watch Love Island or anything, so I have no idea how this works. But people who download the app and who are like impressionable, they're younger people, you know, they'll see it and they'll see Chip and they go, ah,
yeah,
nice. Whereas, yeah, and they don't have to go, oh, he's fit for an Asian one, or
yeah,
he just goes, he's fit. Oh,
yeah,
great, lovely,
exactly.
and that would be job done. And it's not, yeah, exactly. It's not. It's I firmly believe it's not. There's no, this won't be achieved via like a massive like a revolution type toppling of statues, like, you know, firebrand way. I think the change is only made like bit by bit, just tiny fragments, and eventually they'll just add up.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
yeah
yeah, and I like where this positivity is going. This discussion is, and I think that's been such a lovely part of how we've done things, and even across in the models, it's just been positivity.
yeah
Um, you know, what we've done isn't foolproof. We've made mistakes in our photo shoot. We've done, you know, we can always be more inclusive, but I think what we've always done is we've been very open and just we've tried our best. This is the first like photo shoot we've ever done. Sorry, Vanessa, you've done plenty of photo shoots, but this is the first one
Yeah.
that Steph and I produced.
Yeah.
But it's the first one of this kind that we've all done, and yeah, and I think it's important that we just acknowledge that we try our best. That's all we do.
100%. And you know, when you mentioned Chip, it also reminded me of, you know, Joaquin, for example.
Yes.
Having his West End debut. Congrats to him. It was amazing. For the musical Heathers. And he plays a character, Ram Sweeney, who's traditionally played, you know, by a white actor. And even the character itself is traditionally kind of viewed as, you know, that typical high school jockey. You know, he's mean and he's like, you know, kind of macho. And you wouldn't really imagine, you know, in the past, I guess, a East or Southeast Asian person playing it. But then he kind of like breaks that, I guess, stereotype, and he's able to play that character like amazingly. So, you know, shout out to him, and you should go watch Heathers. But it's amazing to see people like that.
And he's a very good-looking man.
Yeah.
So watch that if anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's just amazing. And you know, the support we have for each other, you know, we still have like a group chat with each other, sharing ideas, supporting each other, encouraging each other to do things. And you know, seeing how, like, for example, the other day, a few of us, me and a few other models, like went and see Joaquin. It's just amazing. It's just like all these encouragement. It's just good to see that we're slowly having a proper like community. You know, it's good to see how we're encouraging each other instead of kind of, I guess in the past, there are times where, you know, it's not that we step on each other, but it's more like we're kind of more focused on ourselves and like how to, like, you know, succeed ourselves instead of thinking, oh, how can we kind of bring the community, like lift it up instead of just lifting ourselves up, I guess. So it's nice to see that, you know, we're just so supportive of each other. And
but I think while we're doing, yes, you're absolutely right. But I think it's about tweaking that mindset a little bit by saying our individual successes can only just add towards that communal.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think, you know, you mentioned Joaquin, we mentioned Chip, we mentioned Jai, but also, you know, like everyone involved in our shoots, you know, we should also give a shout out to, you know, our female models as well. You know, we had members of the LGBTQ plus community. You know, we had people with trans, non-binary. You know, we had NG Chan, we had Squid, the Mollusk Dimension. You know, who were just trailblazing and doing like amazing things. And NG's a model and a poet, and she is, you know, performing and did she just win a BAFTA or something? No.
Yeah, she basically performed in the show that won the BAFTA. So I mean, she is part of it. So indirectly, she did.
And just trailblazing and you know, like imagine being imagine being trans and with that being so much discrimination, like historically behind that, being queer and as well as being an ethnic minority. Like I think it's it was so awesome to sort of meet those people and get to know them. You know, we had lawyers who like work high-powered jobs and also run a bakery.
Shout out to Tiff.
Shout out to Tiff. You know, we also have music producers. You know, Alice.
Sylvia has a platform where she like talks about interracial couples as well.
Yeah, represent love.
Yeah. And again, it go back to that example of how people, even before we put these people together, they've already been doing these amazing things.
Yeah.
So like in actual reality, all we've done with this photo shoot and all they've done together in this photo shoot is just to put a spotlight and just to shine a light on it, which is exactly what we wanted. You know, we should also talk about Abby's dress. You know, about like and the perceptions of Asian women. You know, you two please do feel like feed in on this, but I suppose on one hand, Asian males have always been sort of perceived as unattractive or like perverted, or like the mustaches and the overgrown like mustache and all that stuff, and just generally just not like nerdy, bookish. Whereas Asian females, on the other hand, especially in Western media, they've been portrayed as like over sexualized, which is why I think it definitely has fed into the Atlanta, Georgia shootings. That's why they took place in those massage parlors. And I think one of our models, Abby, she showed up to the shoot and she brought this like flowy pink dress, like Disney princess, and it was just fantastic. And it wasn't like sexualized. That's the thing. None of what our female models wore was sexualized. We talk about Joaquin and Jai being shirtless and Chip being shirtless and that being cool. But also what was really amazing was that our sort of female models, Engshi, Princess Polyglot, they all just stood there in their power. And Abby was a full-on Disney princess, or like Ariana Grande. And and it wasn't, it was just powerful. And it was just really awesome and really badass. And that was great to see.
Yeah. I guess like it's a great way to, I guess, end the interview by saying, like if you want to read those stories, please head to our Instagram page at Asians in Britain, or our website as well if you don't have access to Instagram. And finally, one thing we want to add is that one of the reasons we also started the photo shoot is to bring awareness to the Stop East and Southeast Asian Hate campaign. So please, again, go donate. The link is in our bio on Instagram. And just hope you appreciate, love, and support us. So thank you so much, you guys, for joining me today and sharing your stories and experiences.
Thanks for having us.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you.